Like, what's the difference between something off market versus on market?
An on market, somebody that's coming to the market that has done all their due diligence, that is actively seeking to come on the market. Somebody in an off market property from a cold call standpoint would be somebody that maybe has the idea of selling, but they don't have any education at that point.
So what is a pre-qualification?
It has 14 questions on it. Allows me to obtain all the information that I need to make an educated decision on how I'm going to help them when I go out to the property.
If you can get me $300K for the property, I would accept that.
Okay. No, and that's great. Would it be okay, Jose? Obviously, before I, put in play any buyers that we're working with currently, specifically for your property, would it be okay to set up a 15, 20-minute appointment for me to come out and do a quick assessment?
Hi, everybody. This is Jose Luis Morales. Welcome back to another episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. This is episode number 119. Today we got Kelly Johnson, better known as KJ. He is a real estate agent in Indianapolis, Indiana. And today he's going to be talking to us on how to find off-the-market properties. Now, the reason we wanted to do this topic is because for the last couple of years, we've been in a seller's market. A lot of buyers have been in situations where they're competing against 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 offers at one time. And a lot of buyers don't actually realize that real estate agents can actually find off-the-market opportunities for them if you're working with the right real estate agent. Today, Kelly is actually going to be educating us on that process to educate both realtors on how to do it and also educate the consumer. Welcome to the show, Kelly. How are you?
You betcha. Hey, thanks for having me, Jose. Doing well, my friend.
The first thing I want to compliment you. I love the cowboy hat, man. I think that's a good look.
I think you know enough about the old cowboy hat, so I always appreciate your education on them too. I thought it was fitting to be up here with it today.
I wanted to ask, or just start off, who is Kelly Johnson, and then how did you get involved in this wonderful world of residential real estate?
Born and raised here in Indianapolis. We the end of high school, I decided it was time to go in the military. College just wasn't the right cup of tea for me at the time. Went in, served 6 years in the United States Air Force, and there at the end of that tour, I had an option to get out of the military, and I was looking at really two avenues. I had a high interest in real estate. I don't know why. Actually, I know why, but then I didn't know if I was going to go on the real estate brokerage side or if I was going to go on the lender side. I was kind of getting both approaches on both sides. But just in short, I had a gal that was in the Air Force that had gotten out. I was the flight sergeant for the Air Force Honor Guard at the time, and she got out. She was out for about 4 months, and about 2 months before I was actually due to go to flight school, I got unselected from the program. And she came in about the same exact time, and she was like, "Kelly, you would be perfect at something like this." And I actually had just bought a house probably 4 months prior to that I ended up, I had to FSBO myself because there was no equity in the property at the time. And luckily we were able to get out from underneath that and got in the business at the perfect timing of 2007. That was, yeah. I was so dumb. I didn't even know what the heck I was, what I was getting into. People were like, "We're in a recession. You want to get in this business?" I don't even know what a recession is. So let's go. So we got in 2007 and been at it for 15 years now. And just because of different partnerships, just being able to proximity exposure to people like yourself. Mike FERRY has been a huge game changer for me in my life. And yeah, here we are, over 1,000 homes sold at this point. I think we're right around the 1,200 mark at this point, and on track for probably 115, 120 this year. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the off-market stuff.
That's awesome, man. Good for you, man. That's crazy. 1,200 plus homes sold in that 15-year career, man. That's a lot of homes. So let's talk about, let's just start off. What is an off-the-market deal? Like, what's the difference between something off-market versus on-market? Just to kind of break it down for the consumers.
I think from, in my perception, it would be somebody, from an on-market, somebody that's coming to the market that has done all their due diligence, that is actively seeking to come on the market. somebody in an off-market property from a cold call standpoint would be somebody that maybe has the idea of selling, but they don't have any education at that point. If we'll talk about scripts and whatnot too, but it's just one of those simple questions that if I could bring you top dollar for your property and keep you off the market, would there be any interest in entertaining the thought of getting educated on something like that? And just kind of a casual conversation. I'll say those type of calls, the rate of how many you have to make for what it returns is a little bit higher, but majority of the ones that I do make connections with, I double in them.
So it's pretty safe to say that something on market is what everybody sees on the MLS, Trulia, Zulia, Mulia, Gulia, and all the realtor websites. And then off market is something that's not on there, but somebody that has interest in basically selling. And obviously you're able to bring a buyer. Now you said something interesting that sometimes you have buyers that are looking for specific things and that you're able to go out there and find them what they're looking for if it's not on the marketplace. What do you mean by that?
You can do it in a couple different ways. From a cold calling standpoint, do you want me to go into the system that I utilize? I mean, it's simple. From a cold calling standpoint, utilizing a company, there's many different access points out there to get data as far as addresses, phone numbers, emails, things of that nature, names and numbers. And you can use things like RedX, Vulcan, I think Cole. Those are the ones that I've been promoted from the Mike Ferry system. And I'm sure there's probably many others out there. I particularly have come to find that the Vulcan system, Vulcan 7, is a great source of data. It's cost effective, if you will, for the amount of data that you can get. But the other way is doing the old school way, door knock. And I will tell you, we've always been taught, take the path of least resistance. And when you wake up in the morning, you don't think to yourself, hey, I want to go get some face-to-face rejection today. Let's go knock on some doors. Nobody thinks like that. But I will say, showing up to somebody's front door with my suit on, my hat on, my game face on, ready to go, it's the most effective way. And I find it, I personally find it the best day. It's just the weather here in Indianapolis isn't always the best. It's not, because heck, where you're at is what, 70, 80 degrees all the time?
I would imagine down there it gets a little bit hotter or a little bit colder at times.
All 4 seasons to the full tilt. And honestly, spring and fall are my 2 favorites, just because they're not as hot or not as cold as the other 2.
So would it be safe to say that first thing is kind of starting off with a list, maybe like as to who you want to target? Then once you get that list, determining how you want to go about connecting with that list, meaning either face-to-face, phone calls, text messages, or just different ways of connecting with people. But for our viewers out there, what are some of the different lists that somebody can call if they're looking for off-the-market inventory? Obviously, it's going to depend. If you're looking for a specific neighborhood, then obviously you're going to get the list for that specific neighborhood. Let's say that you're looking for a good opportunity. Let's say you're looking for a good deal. What are some examples of some lists that maybe people can look up, and how can they go about looking up those lists as well too?
What do you mean those lists? As far as like just like from what Vulcan would provide?
There's lists of like probates. Like you can get a list of people that are in the probate system. You can get a list of expireds, which that's what Vulcan would provided, which an expired is somebody that was on the marketplace. There's a list of for sale by owners. Any other list that or specialty or niche list that you get when looking for off the market inventory?
Really, the ones that I like to prefer to lean on, obviously every morning, expireds, FSBOs, probates, those are kind of the standing order each day. And then as time allows, if we have a client personally on the team that's looking typically between, say, 200 and 350 here in the Indianapolis market. The reason I like targeting those and I like calling those is because it kind of is double-ended for me, a double-end win, if you will. If I connect the buyer with a property that's in a particular neighborhood, that's a huge win because, again, I get to double in that deal. I get to represent both buyer and seller typically, unless the seller has somebody in place that they want to have them represent them, if that's the case. But the caveat of that is if I don't, let's say that buyer doesn't like that property that we find off market, I can then promote it to the hedge funds that I work with, which over the last probably 3 years, when COVID kicked off, I don't remember who it was that told me, but I started keeping an eye on agents that were representing as buyer's agents for these hedge funds, and have developed a list it fluctuates between like 14 and 18 different buyer's agents, but I bring those opportunities off market to them. And what I'm finding is they will pay. Well, for example, I just had a property that did an evaluation for a seller. It's off market. Military guy. It's a rental right now, and he doesn't want to keep the property. He wants to liquidate it. I called him about 2 weeks ago, and the offer I had on the table was $245,000, and that wasn't acceptable to him. He thought, which is fair. He thought that was the highest offer that I could get him at the time. But I just had today another hedge fund that reached out to me. Hey, is that property on XYZ still available? And they offered $266,500. So then I went back to him and said, hey, I know we didn't connect the dots a couple of weeks ago, but have you had any plans? Have you sold the property as of yet? And he said, nope, haven't had time, whatever. He said, have you got something new for me? And I said, I got that offer. And sure enough, he's going to talk to his wife tonight. And if it makes sense, the hedge fund's going to probably end up liquidating. And the great thing is they give the opportunity to the seller of timing. So if they need 60 days, if they need 90 days, they really like to close under 120 days, but they're kind of open to, because they're doing such a large amount of purchases.
So basically, you can get the expireds from Vulcan. You can get the for sale by owners by Vulcan. Probates, there's a company called All the Leads or probatedata.org that can get you that. Obituaries, there's something called successorsdata.org. There is, do you ever get like custom lists from a title officer, like for a city, or like absentee owners, or people with a certain amount of equity in the property, or properties older than a certain amount of year, or people that bought from a certain time period to a certain time period? Do you ever get that specific, or is it like just more broad in a sense where it's a specific price point because obviously you know that you have an end buyer for that?
The latter of the two. For whatever reason, the title companies, at least I have not found one here. And if somebody watches this podcast that's here in Indianapolis, geez, give me a call, because they're just, the title companies are really, either I'm not asking the right questions or they're just really wound tight here, because there's a lot of obviously masterminding partners that I mastermind with over the country, and the stuff and relationships that they have, the title companies paying for different advertisements or paying for call. I haven't been able to find anybody that'll do that as of yet.
So in California, I mean, there is like a lot less properties for sale relative to other parts of the country. So we have to get creative on our list. We have to get like an absentee owner list, meaning everybody that owns investment properties and maybe lives out of California. There was a time where I even got creative where I noticed that all the properties that were selling in my area were, or not all of them, a good portion of them were people that bought from 2010 to 2015, which was like the bottom of the market. And then we started calling those people because those were the people that were turning over. So once you get the list, then obviously you can call them. You can get the phone numbers. Vulcan is a great source for getting the phone numbers. Let's say that we have the phone numbers now. What does a conversation look like with an off-the-market owner? And are all of them pretty pleasant, like, hey, thank you so much, KJ, for calling me. I can't wait to talk to you. Or is there some resistance? And then also, like, what can a consumer expect? Like, meaning, can they just make 10 phone calls and all of a sudden get 10 deals? Or is it a lot longer of a process than that?
As of right now, to answer your first question, it takes me somewhere between 45 and 55 conversations to produce one lead. And now in that 40 to 50, 45 to 55 conversations, I may have 5 or 6 leads to follow up on that I put 6 months out, a year out, because it's all about timing. And whenever I'm teaching, coaching anybody to make these calls, I tell them rule number one, do not get frustrated with these people, because it's not going to do anything for you. And that's really, I mean, that's the general rule of thumb for any cold calling that anybody would do. But, it's all about timing with these type of calls. And I'm yet to go through a neighborhood, one round robin of just phone calls. And that's why I say the door knocking is even more effective, because I'm yet to go through a neighborhood so from a cold calling standpoint, I haven't went through a complete list and not gotten one sale from it, and that's where if a sale, if you called 200 people and you knew if you called 200 people that you were going to get a reward of $15,000, $20,000, would you do it? Well, of course you'd do it. Well, that's why you just have to have that blind faith to be able to. But that's what I was saying with the door knocking. It's a lot more effective, because typically I get somebody that's actively looking to sell their home typically within 30 or less conversations. So it's just a lot more effective, because that's the cold calling. I mean, anybody and everybody can do that. Not every day does a Kelly Johnson or a Jose Luis Morales show up to the front door.
Do you think it's the cowboy hat whenever you show up face to face?
When you say, I think it's the cowboy hat. No.
That makes it better, or what do you think it is that makes it more the odds more in your favor?
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Just having a face to face. Just they have an opportunity when I hand them a card. Now, do I get the door shut on me? Yeah. Do I occasionally standing at the front door have the neighbor knock on the window up front and say, "Hey, leave! Don't walk across the grass." Yeah, it happens, and that's just a part of the job. A little rejection you have to go through to get the prize at the end of the rainbow.
So walk us through that. So, like, let's say you're door knocking, and then we'll do the cold calling one, because I think this is where a lot of people kind of get stuck in that, kind of overthink things. Walk us through that. Like, all right, you're about to door knock somebody. Do you just go up to the door, knock it, and then if you do, what does that script or what does that conversation look like?
It's really it's almost exactly the same. I'm not saying I never even really thought about it, because I go to the door the same about that I go on the phone, and it's immediately trying to disarm any type of, because who likes to be cold called? Nobody, and there, of course, the people that hang up on you or whatever. But a simple script that I come with is, ring, ring. Hi, my name's Kelly Johnson. I'm a real estate agent with EXP Real Estate here in Indianapolis. This is a complete long shot, but I'm curious. I've got a client that's looking to relocate into your community. If you could obtain top dollar for your property today in today's market and not have to put your home on the market, would that be anything you'd be interested in being educated on? And if the answer is yes, then it just pretty much, yes, we would be interested. What is top dollar for our house? Oh, perfect. So it sounds like selling your home has been an idea. I'm just curious, if you sold this home, where would you go next? So just going into
the motivation.
Yeah.
What are some of the typical responses that you get from people? Like, so obviously you said that you get, yes, I would be interested. What's the price of my home? How would you handle something like that? Like if they say, great, you would move into the motivation at that point. Why the motivation? Just so that our viewers understand.
Because this is what I've learned in the last 3 years is that, the rising market of all these homes and whatnot, we have the instant 10,000-aires and the instant 100,000-aires out there. Which anytime you call somebody and say, hey, if you'd be interested in getting top dollar, everybody wants to. It's just a matter of timing is good or not. And at the end of the day, I have to get beyond just the monetary aspect of the conversation, because that brought the yes to the conversation. Now, logistically, what does that mean? If you had that $100,000 worth of equity in your hand, what would that provide for you and your family? Would you pay some bills off? Would you put 20% towards a new home, or 5%? Just what you have to get that next layer beyond the monetary is the motivation. And the motivation will carry you through, because once the feeling just wears off, even going through a transaction and whatnot. I get sellers all the time who are like, "Ooh, I think I made a mistake or whatever." And if I didn't dive deep enough into that motivation, there's a good chance that someone could walk away from the transaction before you make it to the finish line.
Now, this is something that I kind of, at the beginning of my career, I was taught something that was like, okay, look, if they're not interested in selling in 7 to 10 days, you got to throw them away. But then what I realized as I got further along was that it was all about catching people at the right time. And that sometimes the motivations changed over time. So I kind of figured in my business, a large portion of taking a lot of listings or connecting a lot of buyers with off the market deals came down to connecting with people at the right time. So it came down to the follow up or the nurture process. How do you stay in touch with people to be able to catch people at the right time in their life? And I'll explain what we mean by the right time as well too.
Really just following up, putting them, if they're no, right now is not the right time. Oh, curious. Well, when would the perfect time be? Well, we need to get our kid out of high school, college, whatever the case may be. Oh, when do they graduate? And putting a simple reminder in my calendar just to follow up with them is I always, coming from military, coming from Indiana, we have a method called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And that fits perfectly with me. And the easier the process, the more apt I am to follow up with those leads. But you're absolutely right. It is all 100% about timing. You can have $1 million in your property, but if you don't have nowhere to go, or you don't know where you're going or why you want to go, it doesn't make a difference.
Sometimes I'll be talking to people and they'll be like, well, yeah, I'm selling when I retire. Next is, okay, you mind me asking when you retire? They're like, January of 2024. I know we get closer to January of 2024, that motivation is going to start to increase. And at some point, they're going to be selling. It doesn't mean that was a waste of time, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to sell. It just means that I got to stay in contact with them until we get closer to doing something. And then at that point, we can connect them with either a buyer, or we can put it on the MLS. And then correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, or if it's different in Indy, but in California, there are some people that just don't want to put their property on the marketplace. Like I get people that say, hey, look, I've got tenants in the property. I don't want to bother the tenants in any way. I'm looking for somebody to kind of just make me an offer and take over the property. Do you guys get that in Indianapolis as well too? And is there opportunity for potential buyers whenever they come across an opportunity like that?
Oh, sure. 100%. I think that's in any market. And again, the COVID completely changed the game completely. And this was one of the techniques that I more or less just stumbled across and just listed just hold calls. Those are not new. But off market and almost any market, I'm pretty certain that there's probably some hedge fund purchasing going on. There was a company here that, interestingly enough, has sold a lot of their portfolio. It has been in the process of selling their portfolio, and that's American Homes for Rent. Which have you heard of that conglomerate?
No, I have not.
No, and I don't know how many different marketplaces they're in, but they bought a bunch of property, of which for whatever reason, and I'm not certain why, they're selling a lot of those properties off currently. But that's just coming across those. And again, I tell everybody, I do not want to work for the hedge funds. Not interested. I think that puts so many eggs in one basket. And my coach has always told me, one of my previous coaches always told me that there's one thing that we can do every day to extend our business, and that is 3 words: talk to people. It's that simple. And that's where the leverage in our business comes from, and that's what I've had to learn the hard way, is the consistency of making those calls. Because now, at this point, I don't get frustrated with anybody. If it makes sense for them, it makes sense for me. Let's get together. I'll educate you and see where the conversation takes us.
So basically, a good way to find off the market deals is one, to get different types of lists depending on what type of product you're looking for. Make sure you get the right phone numbers and either door knock the people or basically talk to them on the phone and basically see if they've got any sort of motivation. Then build up a pipeline, stay in contact with that pipeline until they get to the point where their motivation increases. If their motivation is now, then obviously you help them now. If their motivation is somewhere in the future, then we can then obviously just staying in contact with them. So having a pretty good nurture program. Would you be open to role playing a full conversation like that with me? And kind of maybe I could be the agent, you can be the seller, you can be the seller, or you can be the agent, I can be the seller, just so that our viewers have an idea as to what it looks like. And I'm open to playing either party, just to kind of get an idea.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I'll be the agent first. I'll be the agent. Let everybody kind of hear that script again. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I was looking for Jose, please.
Yeah, this is him. Who's this?
Yeah. Hi, Jose. Sorry to bother you, my friend. And this call is going to catch you a little off guard. My apologies for that. The reason for my call, my name's Kelly Johnson. I'm a real estate broker for EXP here in the Indianapolis market. And this is a complete long shot. But I'm curious. I've got a client that's looking to relocate into your community. Would you have any interest in entertaining the thought of getting top dollar for your property?
I might. You want to just make me an offer and kind of shoot it to me via email?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I can't just shoot you an offer. Obviously, I'd have to know a little bit more about your property and just your situation in general. But I'm curious, Jose, if you happen to sell this property, if you were able to obtain top dollar and I was able to bring that to you, where would you go? What would be the purpose of the move?
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to decide right now. I've got a couple of options open, and I'm just trying to determine which one of those options really is best for me and my family. But we would entertain somebody if you have somebody. We're kind of trying to decide right now as to what the best course of action is.
Yeah, sure. So it almost sounds like at this point you have had it on your radar for a little while to get the property sold. What do you think has stopped you at this point from making that transition for yourself?
So I think for me, it's just making sure that I know where to go. I've got a couple different irons in the fire that I'm kind of messing with right now.
Yeah.
One of them, obviously, just I may be retiring pretty soon. So I'm kind of trying to do that. And then the other is that I may just want to get out of Indianapolis. I kind of don't like the way that certain things are going on around here. So I may want to get out. So I would say that as I realize where I'm moving to, my motivation would get more serious.
Gotcha. Okay. So obviously retirement is on your doorstep and you are considering maybe even moving out of state. So it'd be a very aggressive move. So I'm guessing are there any kids involved at this point?
No kids. Just me and my wife.
You and your wife. Terrific. And any idea which direction you'd go? Would you go north, east, south, west, Florida, California? Where would you go?
Definitely not California, because I don't like the politics there, But yeah, we might consider moving a little bit like southeast Florida. We're kind of considering Florida tremendously.
Oh, nice. I've got some friends down in the Miami area. I'd love to maybe hook you up with if you end up going that way. So what you're saying at this point is if I could help you get top dollar for your property, if I came out, did an assessment on your property and gave you a number and you agreed with that number, this would be the right time for you and your family to make a move?
It would, but I don't want a bunch of people walking through my home, Kelly. I'll be very transparent with you. I'm a little bit older. I'm about to retire. My house is a little bit of a mess, and I really don't want a lot of people. Not only that, but I am high risk because of COVID. I can't afford to get sick. So if you have somebody in mind that would buy my property in as-is condition, and
Sure.
if you have somebody that would make me an offer, I would definitely entertain that. But I'm not really interested. I know that you said you're a real estate agent. I'm not really interested in putting it on the open market.
Oh, okay. No, that's and that is totally your prerogative. You get to handle your sale the way that you want to. That's the great thing of being the owner of the property. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, like right now, Jose, just to be direct with you, I've got a client that's looking in your neighborhood. That's why I made this call to you today. And what I'd like to do is promote your property to them first. But my first plan of action in any of these type of conversations is to serve you and your family first. Why do I say that? Because I have to come out and do an assessment on the property, determine a valuation, give you an evaluation of the property, make sure that you are in direct line with what that valuation would look like. And at that point, we have a couple options. Obviously, I typically tell clients like yourself that we have 3 options. The third being that we could go on the MLS, but it sounds like just from what this conversation is exhausting, you don't want to go on the MLS. You don't want to be exposed to a lot of people. And I can appreciate that. The first 2 options is, number 1, I've got a client that's looking specifically in your neighborhood for your exact property. I would love nothing more than to connect you, her, and her 3 kids to your property. Now, obviously, at this point, I'm kind of blind. I don't know exactly what your property looks like. I don't know what price tag we would set on it. But the number 2 is, after coming up with that evaluation, if she, that one-time showing, did not exhaust a sale for you, then I could have a backup plan of promoting it to some hedge funds, some cash buyers. And that may, in the beginning, kind of throw you off a little bit because you would think they would probably lowball you. But I can assure you that these hedge funds are actually paying more in cash than what they will appraise for. Would either of those 2 options work for you and your family?
What if I just made it really simple for you, KJ? What if I just told you I just want $300K out of my property? Like, if you can find somebody for $300K, I would seriously consider selling it, and I think that would be good. In terms of the condition, I mean, it's pretty original, like it doesn't really have many upgrades. Pretty good condition. I mean, we keep it up. I've got a lot of toys laying around here, I've got a lot of stuff. But I would say if you can get me $300K for the property, I would accept that.
Okay. No, and that's great. Would it be okay, Jose? Obviously, before I, put in play any buyers that we're working with currently, specifically for your property, would it be okay to set up a 15, 20-minute appointment for me to come out and do a quick assessment, make sure that we're in line with that 300? Because honestly, I serve the client, being yourself, just as well as we do our buyer clients. What do I mean in that? Because if I can get you 320, I want to get you 320. I have no reason not to get you the most amount of money possible. And really, you have one opportunity to do that. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, money is important to me. I think for me, convenience is most important. But yeah, you can pop by. When would you like to pop by?
Yeah, I can stop by Wednesday at 4, or would Wednesday at 6 be better for you?
I'd probably say Wednesday at 6.
Perfect. And then I just go in to the pre-qualification at that point.
So what is a pre-qualification, just for our viewers to kind of understand what a pre-qual is?
I think just a pre-qualification would be just something similar to this CMA form that we got filled out here that has 14 questions on it. And then at that point, I'm able to just be, because that's the whole, I feel like on these type of scripts, there's a little bit more talking that's in play than there are questions, simply because you have to educate them a little bit further on just what this process would look like, because it's not a conventional, normal way. They think in their mind they're going to call a real estate agent. They think in their mind that real estate agent is going to come out to their house and give them an assessment, and then they're going to put it on the market. Well, what this CMA form does, which consists of 14 questions, allows me to obtain all the information that I need to make an educated decision on how I'm going to help them when I go out to the property.
Walk us through, what were you thinking about, or was it just more natural instinct because you've done it so many times? Walk us through kind of that phone call. What were your thoughts as you were kind of progressing through the call, and what was the objective? Was obviously to get an appointment from them. Is this a pretty realistic call as to what something would potentially go, or was it a little bit off in any way?
No, I think that was a pretty spot on conversation, just in the sense of, and that's the thing is going into these, if you make these calls each and every day, as you very well know, it creates that snowball effect. And when you're making these conversations, there's that whole theory is, if you generate, you don't have to tolerate, right? And when I'm going through these calls, I feel that honestly, I feel like my mind just completely shuts down, and I'm completely dialed in to the prospect that I'm talking to. What is their wants? What are their needs? And, and you're right. I have been doing this long enough. Obviously, I didn't do that with the script. And I sometimes take that for granted when I'm teaching other people to do this. What I know you've done and what I know I've done over the years is I've wrote out script after script after script. And when you write them out, could Kobe, could he do a jump shot blind, with his eyes closed? Yeah, he can hit a jump shot with his eyes closed. He could probably beat me with his eyes closed. But that's the repetitious, the repetitious boredom of the calls. It's not exciting. It's not sexy. But if you do them enough, you will get comfortable with the scripts and make it your own.
Basically, one of the key factors in finding off-market deals is to be able to role play different sales situations to be able to help the client to the best of your ability. Anything else as it relates to finding off-market properties that you think would be helpful for our viewers?
No, I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's just making those calls, being consistent. And I say that, I preach to myself. I've been the most inconsistent person that I know. Today, I'm the most consistent person that I know. I'm probably one of 10 people in this marketplace that prospects the amount that I do, which, if one of your listeners may say, I wonder how many hours a day he prospects. And my answer to that would be 3 to 5 hours a day. I literally have staff that supports me in the sense of logistics on the back end side. They do a great job pulling everything off and handling objections, whatever they need to do as far as the client care coordination side of the transaction goes. But yeah, just making these calls daily, consistently. Like I have a conversation goal of 24 conversations a day before 11 a.m.
And the thing is that it's so rewarding because I've made these phone calls personally. And I've come across people that are like, yeah, like that same exact scenario. And the only difference is sometimes they'll throw at me a number that it's like, look, Jose, I know my property's worth like 600,000 or 700,000. I understand that. Give me 500,000. I'll take it today. And I'm just like on the telephone. I'm just like, oh my God, this is such a good opportunity for somebody. And sometimes people imagine that it's all about price. It's not always about price. It's about convenience. It's about based on their situation, what is important to them. So you're going to talk to a lot of people. And some people are going to want top dollar. Some people are going to want convenience. Some people are going to want as is. And it just depends on what they want. And then at that point, presenting them with with whatever they want. So KJ, if people wanted to get a hold of you, if people are like, man, I want to get out of California, I want to invest in Indianapolis, or I want to buy something in Indy, or I want access to off the market deals, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, call me direct. I give my cell phone out to everybody, 317-908-9614. That's the best way, honestly, to get a hold of me, text or voice. If you want to hit me up via email, it's Kelly, Kelly, at Kelly's, Kellys, Indy, INDY, Homes, HOMES.com.
All our viewers out there, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. This was episode number 119. We had Kelly Johnson, better known as KJ. He is a real estate agent with eXp Realty in Indianapolis, Indiana. And thanks again, my friend, for coming on and kind of sharing some value with our viewers.
You betcha, brother. Appreciate you big time.
Big time. Likewise.